actually. I said, why? And they said, you're pretty funny when you preach sometimes. Like, well, there's a vote of confidence. You're pretty funny when you preach sometimes. I'm like, well, yeah, but you don't have to be funny when you preach. Look at Colby. Like, it doesn't And so, but I have to kind of think through as a stand-up comedian, because this is my debut as a stand-up comedian. If it goes well, I may quit being the youth pastor here and switch careers, because I hear that it's very lucrative. But I gotta find my comedic voice, and the problem is, really my comedic voice, it's more quick wit, which is just code for an average IQ and a hint of sarcasm. And so that's really all I've got going for me. So for example, I had a student about 5 years ago, it was on the night of confirmation student celebration. It's gonna totally ruin this for all of you that have been through confirmation, but whatever, you've already done it. So, who comes up on confirmation, it's been this really powerful night, and kids have been crying, and it's this whole thing, kids giving their lives to Jesus, awesome, great. And he comes up to me and goes, Alan, why are you a youth pastor? And I look at him straight face, his name's Jimmy Lichtenwald, and I go, well, Jimmy, your salvation pays my electric bill. And so, that's what pops in my brain in these moments. Like, I don't know, like, that's my sense of humor, and so I don't know really what to do with it. So that's like, so for me it'd be easier if I just pulled one of you up on stage and you said something and then I just made fun of you in return. That's all I've got, really. But I gotta try and find my own comedic voice. So I'm at Newtown Park right around the corner, maybe a couple weeks ago, and one of my sons, I have a 6 and a 4-year-old, brings me a lacrosse ball. And he goes, Dad, what's this? And I look at him straight face and I go, Plan B. And he goes, all right, and then it gets super weird, because then we go home and he walks in with the lacrosse ball, because I kind of take this, I'm like, yeah, they got ground balls for life, they don't need them. And so they take the lacrosse ball home, they walk in, he goes up to my wife and says, Mom, I found Plan B in the park. This turned into a strange conversation. Then Carrie says, no, that's a lacrosse ball. And so Carter and Reed both go, oh, it's a lacrosse ball, oh, it's a lacrosse ball. About 5 minutes later, Carter looks at me and goes, Jesus played lacrosse? I'm like, oh man, this just did not go the way I wanted it to. But that's kind of more of my sense of humor. I could tell some math jokes. So what concert do you pay 45 pennies to go to? 50 Cent featuring Nickelback, right? Like, we can do those kind of jokes. Or we can do some dark humor, like my son has the heart of a puppy, and now we're banned from pet stores across America. Right? So maybe this is not the setting for that one. We could do smart jokes, but y'all don't seem like the audience for that, and so we move on past this one. So, but what main thing is, as I'm writing this out, I've got to make sure that I don't offend anybody, because Lord knows everybody's got their safe space, and I don't want to offend anyone's safe space. And so what it comes down to is, what really safe space is you are allowed to offend whoever you want to, but no one's allowed to offend you, Trump. And so, that's really what can we disagree? All right, I'm not gonna, I promise it's the only political thing I'm gonna say, but we just have to agree on one thing. Trump was totally the kid in elementary school that said no tag backs on the playground. He was definitely that kid. So that's kind of, but when I think about like the type of things that I find funny, it's probably my children that I find the funniest, because they just say whatever comes out of their mouth, hashtag no filter. Like they'll say absolutely anything that comes into their minds, and they're hilarious, and they're really funny for two different reasons. Carter's my 6-year-old, very, very just genuine spirit, very serious, very straightforward, and so he's funny in like an anti-humor type way. Like you try and set up a joke and he ruins it and makes you feel like a terrible father. Because like you try and ask him questions and you're trying to get him to say something funny and you're like, oh, I want to be able to tweet this, right? And so let's see if we can get the 6-year-old to say something funny, and then he just says something completely straight face. And so I come home like, Carter, what do you do today? He's like, I want to make an Iron Man costume. Okay, cool, like, let's go to the store and get Iron Man. He's like, no, there's metal in the garage, go weld it together. Straight face. I'm looking at him like, sorry, I really don't know how to do that. That's not really my particular skill set. Like when we wrestle, he's so serious, it's hard to take him serious, because we have a rule that when we're done wrestling, so we wrestle in the basement and kind of have like fight night or whatever, and I'm teaching them how to do boys and whatever. And when we're done fighting, we have a rule. You have to shake the other person's hands when you're done. And so you get done fighting, and usually it's after they've hit me like between the eyes one too many times with a little tiny fist, which hurt like needles. And they stick their hand out, and you shake their hand. But Carter, being straight-faced, he does it to me. This right here. You see this on my lip? This is legitimate. Right here is because I shook his hand on Thursday when we were wrestling, and this is what he'll do to me sometimes. He'll just look at me and go, "Oh, good fight, Dad," and then sucker punch me with the other fist. Because he's the serious kid. And so you believe him, because you're like, well, I don't know, and I believe him. I try and set up stuff with him, like, I'm like, oh, he's going to say funny stuff. I coached their soccer teams this year. And I'm like, okay, Carter, why don't you like scoring goals? And I'm like, hoping he's going to say something really funny. And all he says is like, I like passing to the other kids, and I like it when everybody else cheers for them when they score. Yeah, terrible father. I wanted you to say something terrible. Like, I'm like trying to bait you into this particular thing. Now my other son, Reed. Oh, Reed. Reed is a walking bobblehead doll. His head is like the opposite of the Grinch's heart. It's about 3 sizes too big for his body. So, everybody remember the foxtail thing that you played with growing up? You had the ball on the end, there's the long ribbon, and so you'd sling it like this and then go. So that's Reed. Him learning to walk and run, it wasn't a leg thing, it was a leaning thing. And so him learning to run was more of him just putting his head forward, putting his head backwards, putting his head sideways. And so this is the child we're talking about. Those of you that haven't met him, I want to give you a picture. It's just kind of this, just kind of, hey Dad, he's got this, he's such a cute kid. He's got this same smile. It's kind of like, is it cute or is he, am I going to find him staring at me at 3 a.m. while I'm sleeping? It's kind of like, he's got this giant saucer eyes. So he's like, so it's a regular occasion. I come downstairs and Reed's sitting on the couch in only his Iron Man underwear at 7 a.m. eating a popsicle. And I shuffle on down. Hey Reed, how you doing? Eating a popsicle? Make me some bacon. This happens to me on a regular occasion. So this particular child, this is my cartoon child. So we're at Thanksgiving this year, and I'm not sure if any of you have those families. Like my family is the type of family that at family events, you need to have a social security card, a birth certificate, and like a thing about your blood to show that you're in our family in order to come to our Thanksgiving. My mother-in-law, however, she's the type of person, I think, on the day of major holidays, she drives to the nearest Walmart and just invites the 7 most random people she can find. Some of you have these type families. You show up to Thanksgiving and you're like, who's the random I'm going to meet this year and have a weird conversation with? Awesome, Uncle Pat, sweet. And so this is what happens. So my aunt is the same way. Always invites just random people. There was some guy there with his family from Virginia this year, and nobody from my family's from Virginia. I have no idea why he was there. But he had a 5-year-old, and they were playing in the backyard. And they're running around, and the 5-year-old was a bit of a big kid, kind of a bully. And he kept pushing Carter down from behind. Which again, Carter's kind of a sensitive kid, so Carter's one of those things like, he's just kind of smart about it. Someone pushes down behind, and he just looks at him, and he's like, oh, whatever, just walks away and goes inside. Reed, different story. So, Reed, kid pushes Carter down, you can see Reed kind of getting, it's like bobbling extra fast. And he's walking around, he's watching this kid push Carter down, so he gets pushed down from behind, and Reed pops up. I mean, blows the kid up. Now, Reed's 4 this time. And so he's smaller than this kid, but just lights him up. So the great thing is this, he goes, then the kid goes inside crying to his parents. And of course, if parents were so judgmental, all the parents turn and look at me like, what's the dad gonna do? So I'm like, okay, I guess I gotta fake like I care. So I'm sitting by the fire, and we all sit by a fire pit in the backyard, and I do the dad voice, Reed! Your finger right here. Come here! So he starts to, tears swelling up in his eyes. So I grab him and I put him on the bench. I'm like, son, we've talked about this so many times. You're gonna want to follow through because you're losing so much power on the other end. You're really gonna want to make sure you put your shoulders behind it if you're gonna do this. And so this is the child I'm talking about. So I coached their soccer team this year, and it was fantastic. And of course, Carter would pass the ball to everybody, but then Reed, he would score a goal, and there would just be a wake of crying 4-year-olds behind him. And I really want to teach this. I coach soccer at Centennial High School, go Knights. And I really want to teach this to my girl players, because this is what he would do. He would score, remember, just crying 4-year-olds behind him. And he would pick up the soccer ball and go hand it to one and be like, I'll let you score next time. Which in his mind, he's being sweet, but like teenagers' minds, that would be just absolutely fantastic. But coaching soccer was a lot of fun until I met that dad. You know that dad. He walks up to me. So Alan, what tactics are you teaching the kids this year? I'm like, well, I thought about teaching them to stay on the purple field. Do you have any suggestions? And he does this. He throws the North Fulton parent hand grenade. My kid is advanced. Let's call the Pentagon. Your kid is advanced. He learned to tie his shoes at 4. Fantastic. Okay, in that case, we're going to run a 3-5-2, and we really want the wings to push up the outside. But this is what we do, though. We have this culture where everybody thinks that their kid is the advanced one. And it's funny, because you got to imagine teachers, what they probably experience. Well, you know, your son's failing 4 classes. He's just too advanced. No, that's not the reason at all. That's the opposite of advanced. Our classes in school, I kid you not, this is a class in one of our schools. Honors Accelerated Advanced Geometry and Algebra on level. Nope. Those are not the same thing. But we feel like we have to be like, oh, we need to make sure that we say everything is so advanced. You ask a kid, you're like, oh, you go in his room, you're like, oh, I'm not sure why I'm in a kid's room, but whatever. You ask him, you know, well, hey, why do you have 8 trophies? He's like, I played 8 seasons of basketball. Like, I watched 8 seasons of The Office on Netflix, but I don't have any trophies. And so this is the culture that we have created where everybody's advanced, but I had this ripped from me at an early age. God bless my parents for teaching me something. They taught me from an early age, they are losers. It's called second place. And I learned this Easter of 1988. And so we have an Easter egg hunt every year, just like everybody does. And it's a white family tradition. It's our 6th annual one, 1988, 6 years old. And so we're doing the Easter egg hunt in the backyard, and my sister and I are very, very competitive already at this age because my parents only ever put out 1 plate of food at night, and we just had to fight over who got it. And so this is the kind of culture that we had. We were a very, very competitive family. And so we're back there, and we're going around, and I climb up the jungle gym in our backyard. We have like a very swampy backyard. So I climb up the jungle gym, and I'm trying to get this one egg, and it falls down. And then all of a sudden you hear the soundtrack from all of the safari shows on the planet, like the Animal Planet play. Because then my sister swoops up underneath it, and you can almost see and hear like the announcer. He stalks his prey. He sees the prey run away. And then I pounce. And unfortunately, we disappear behind a tree. And so, if you imagine, it's a tree, a 4-year-old, and all you see on the other side is just and so we come up at the end of this, and our clothes are tattered. We have blood stains. I've got a teardrop tattoo under my eye, and like the theme song from Lord of the Flies is playing in the background. And we come up there and we count our Easter eggs, like every good Christian family does, to see who won. And we look at all and we count them out, and I had 25 Easter eggs. And my sister had 24 Easter eggs. My dad's filming the whole thing on the old, like the bazooka-looking cameras. Dad, you know what I'm talking about. It's this big, giant camera. I'm like, his arm was about to fall off. So he's filming it, and so, you know, oh, I only got 25. Rebecca, tell us what it's like to be the loser. This is the family that I grew up in. And so, for me, though, I think that this whole idea of this advanced culture has created what I like to call snowflake syndrome. Yeah. SFS. And we all suffer from it. It's definitely a North Fulton disease. It's a snowflake syndrome. And I want to go out and say this on a quick, serious spiritual note. We are all individually made by God and special. But everything that we do is not special. Parents, you're the worst. Moms, you are the worst of the worst. Especially moms my age. Moms of teenagers, I think you figured it out. Like you've stopped thinking that everyone cares about your opinion. But moms that are my age, everyone cares about their opinions. And no one doesn't. And so they go on Facebook on a Saturday morning, and here's what they post. Now remember, Saturday morning, that means Friday through Monday just happened. It could have been a terrible week, but here's what they post. Oh, my beautiful children. I got up and they cleaned the whole house, and then my loving hubby had made me breakfast. He made non-GMO, organic, free-range, gluten-free tofu. we just love our tofu to be free range. We let it roam around the grocery aisle without eyes because it's really, we want to be humanitarian with our tofu. And so this is what they post. And really, I wish they would just shorten it. Post a picture of their kids and just say 6 reasons why I'm a better mom than you are. That's what every single post that these moms post should be. It's just like, I'm a better mom than you. I want you to look at it, feel bad about yourself for a day. That's really what we do with snowflake syndrome. Is my family is the perfect little snowflake. Teenage girls. The coffee. So, here's what I imagine. When I go to a coffee place, you go into Starbucks, and they spell my name, A-L-L-L-E, the number 7, the letter Q-N. That's my coffee experience. They get it wrong, it's fine, whatever. Not a big deal. Here's what I think you picture when you go into a coffee shop. It's all black and white. Everyone's depressed and sad, frowns on their faces. Nickelback's playing in the background. And they're all trudging through. Marge, Beatrice, I don't know what other names would be. And they go through and they get their little boring thing and they go and they go, thank you. And then you step up and you give them your order. And they go in the back and they draw a unicorn on the top of it. And they sprinkle fairy dust over it. And then when it comes out, I really think that when it comes out, everything goes to color. And it's so exciting. And you hear kind of like a little bit of the theme song from The Lion King. You're a Simba latte, it's so ready at the counter, soy low fat. And this is what you do until you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to go put this on social media or no one will know I had coffee this morning. How will we ever survive if no one knows that I had coffee this morning? All right, CrossFitters. Nothing. I'm not trying to say anything to you. I work out 4 days a week for this awesome dad bud you see in front of you. All right, that's all I've got. CrossFitters. I don't care that you can do box jumps. All right, vacation. Lastly, on the post thing, on the snowflake thing, if you've been on a plane, let me let you know this. It has a wing. Just so you know. We're never going to see a picture of you in a plane and be like, oh my gosh, is that one of those wingless planes? So you really don't need to tell us about your special little plane. But because of this, though, it really makes me want to invent an honest social media app called Average. Average social media. So you can just imagine it's a group of like 9th grade girls. They're all over Brewster's, the ice cream place that everyone else has been to. And they take a picture together with their vanilla ice cream. And they say, hey, let's go average this. That sounds perfect. That's exactly what that should be like. And instead of a like button, it's going to be like a straight face emoji with the word acknowledge. Because that would be honest social media. Yeah, I acknowledge that I saw this. Very good. The little post button is going to be, so instead of post, it's going to say, no one cares. Just to make sure, before you post, you're absolutely positive that you're okay, that absolutely no one cares. So if you can imagine, you're just sitting out there and you take your picture, you average it, it gets on there, someone acknowledges that they saw it. This is going to be the notification sound. Instead of bing, it's going to be meh. That's what you're going to hear from your pocket when you post the things that absolutely no one cares about. And it's going to disappear after 7 minutes, not for security purposes or mystery, but because, again, cares. And so it'd be great because you get on your social media account and after 7 minutes, it's completely empty. It would be absolutely fantastic. I'd probably hire like Shia LaBeouf to be the CEO. He seems like a good person for an average company. And then after kind of building up the company for a while, I get it to the point where it's worth a lot. I just sell it to the Braves or the Falcons because they manage average quite well. Thanks. That's all I got. See y'all.